Horrible Harry. Goes Cuckoo. By Susie Klein. Harry the Canary. I know my friend Harry loves anything creepy, slimy, gross, or horrible. He's been like that since kindergarten. I didn't know that Harry would go cuckoo in 3rd grade. I blame it on the cold February weather, because that's when it started. Harry and I were standing at the end of room 3B's line, freezing, waiting. Our turn to enter the southeast school door. Suddenly, Harry called out, "Oh no, Doug." What is it?" I said, shivering. "The big blue bag." "Huh?" I replied. "Blue bag?" What was Harry talking about? "Where?" "Over there. Mr. Beausoleil is carrying it. He just passed us on his way out." I pulled my winter cap down over my ears and looked. "What's in it?" "Ice melt," Harry replied. "It means no outdoor recess again, like last week. I can't stand being cooped up any longer. I'm going cuckoo." When Harry first said cuckoo, I just shrugged it off. After all, the cuckoo is a bird, and our class was studying birds. They were on everyone's mind. I watched Mr. Beausoleil sprinkle some ice melt over the frozen playground. "Actually, the stuff looks kind of cool," I said. "Like orange Rice Krispies." "You mean deadly orange Rice Krispies?" Harry snarled. "You boys are taking too long." Mary interrupted. "I'm not holding the school door any longer. It's freezing." Just as she let it go, a hand reached around from the inside and caught it. It was Sydney. "Hey, Harry," he said. "Guess what bird I'm doing my report on?" Harry didn't guess. He hadn't started his report yet. "A yellow Tweedo like you." Harry gritted his teeth, then clenched his fist. "Call me Tweedo one more time and I'll smash your snot sola," said the squid. Ida and Mary giggled as we joined our class line in the hallway. Song Lee tried not to. Sid stuck his face right in front of Harry's. "Okay, I'll just call you Harry the Canary." That did it. Harry pinched Sid's nose and twisted it like a doorknob. "Ow wow." Sid squealed. He jumped on Harry and knocked him over like a bowling pin. Mrs. Doshi, the hall monitor, saw the boys rolling on the floor. "Okay, you two, that's enough," she said. Harry and Sydney immediately got up. Sid inched behind Harry's back. He didn't want to see Mrs. Doshi's angry face. "I'm reporting you both." Song Lee covered her mouth. Mary half smiled. I shook my head. This was not good. Miss Mackle, our teacher, had spoken to Harry and Sydney just last week about their quarreling. Harry threw his winter jacket like a frisbee at the coat rack, then stomped into room 3B. Sid hung his jacket carefully on the hanger and zipped it up. He even folded his scarf and placed it neatly on the rack. I think Sid knew he'd gone too far with the name-calling. He didn't want any more trouble. After our teacher had a word with Mrs. Doshi, she calmly walked over to Harry's desk. I sit behind him, so I heard everything. "It's time you and Sydney resolved your differences," Miss Mackle said. "I think spending your lunch hour in the principal's office talking with Mr. Cardini might help." Harry sank down into his chair. That was more deadly than any orange Rice Krispies. the VIP chair. As soon as everyone said the Pledge of Allegiance, the principal's voice came over the intercom. Boys and girls, this is Mr. Cardini. There will be no outdoor recess today. It's too icy and slippery on the playground. We don't want you to hurt yourselves. Happy Monday! Lots of people groaned, but some, like Mary and Ida, clapped. They liked having their cute club indoors. Anyone could join it, but I never did. Mostly they just made their little plastic pets walk and talk in different voices. Song Lee and I exchanged a look. We wanted to play kickball. Harry stared into space. He was dreading something else, being cooped up with Sydney at lunchtime. Boys and girls, I thought it might be fun to add something new to our classroom, Miss Mackle announced. Everyone watched Miss Mackle step out into the hall. A moment later she carried in a director's chair. It looked like the kind they use in Hollywood because the seat was up so high. The back and seat had wide strips of canvas. It looked really comfortable. The teacher set it up in the library corner. This chair is for our VIP. What's VIP mean? Ida asked. It means very important person, the teacher replied. Every day, one of you will be the VIP for room 3B. You'll sit in this chair during our class meetings. You'll be my assistant teacher and run all my errands. Suddenly, Harry sat up straight. The word run was like a magic wand. Mary raised her hand and waited politely to be called on. Yes, Mary? Are you picking people with the best behavior for the first VIPs? No, the teacher replied. I'm going in alphabetical order, and we're start ing today. With first names? Harry asked hopefully. Miss Mackle chuckled. No, Harry. Last names. Then she set a large poster on the chalk tray. It was our class list in alphabetical order. We all looked and tried to figure out which day we might get to be the VIP and sit in the director's chair. Harry didn't bother. His last name, Spudger, came near the end of the alphabet. Mary clapped and cheered as soon as she saw her name, Mary Berg, was listed first. What a good idea to go in alphabetical order, she exclaimed. That's the fairest way. Harry just rolled his eyes and sank farther down into his chair. Cutie pie. Boys and girls, Miss Mackle said, please come to the library corner for our morning meeting. Harry was the last one to join us on the moon rug. Mary made a beeline for the VIP chair. When she climbed on, her legs dangled a little and the chair wobbled, but she managed to steady it. Everyone could see her pink long underwear under her flowered jeans. So, Miss Mackle said, let's talk about birds. Did anyone spot one last weekend? I did, Ida said. We have a cardinal that comes to our bird feeder. I saw one of those on my way to school, Zuzu added. Mary looked down at us from her VIP chair. Are all cardinals red? Ida shook her head. Just the males are. Both female and male cardinals have red beaks, but only the males are all red. I love their chirp. Then she whistled the bird sound. What a beautiful bird chirp you made, Ida. Miss Mackle exclaimed. Thank you. Anyone else? Well, Sid blurted out, I didn't just see a bird. I had a sleepover with one. Lots of us laughed. It's true, he continued. At my grandpa's house. He has a canary in a cage. Cutie Pie is my favorite bird in the whole wide world. Does he sing? Ida asked. He sings a lot. My granddad got a CD with canary music on it, and every time Cutie Pie hears it, he sings more. What else does he do? Zuzu inquired. Sid chuckled. He takes baths in his water dish each morning, and he doesn't have to use soap to get clean. Miss Mackle laughed. Actually, Sid added, Cutie Pie is kind of like me. He looks in the mirror a lot and needs a nightlight when it gets dark. What fascinating observations, the teacher replied. Thank you, Sid, for sharing those details about your canary. That's what I hope you all are doing, collecting interesting facts for your bird reports. Maybe you'll even come up with a creative way to share them. Sid waved both hands in the air. I saved the best news for last. Granddad said he talked with Miss Mackle and that he got permission to bring Cutie Pie to school one day this week. Everyone cheered. Except Harry. The last thing he wanted was a canary coming to room 3B. What day is Cutie Pie coming? Dexter asked. It's a surprise, Miss Mackle answered. Now, let's see, did anyone else make some bird observations over the weekend? I think Song Lee would like to go next, Mary pointed out from her VIP chair. Song Lee was holding a piece of paper in her hand. We have blue jays, sparrows, and an owl in our yard, she said softly. Is that a picture of one of them? The teacher asked. Song Lee nodded. When she held up her drawing, everyone oohed and awed. She had spent a lot of time sketching each feather on the owl. You're really making keen observations, class, Miss Mackle said. Great job! Now, Mary, would you please line up the class? It's time to go to the library. Mary loved being the boss. She knew just what to do. If you're wearing lots of pink, you may line up first. Song Lee and Sydney chatted as they hurried to the door. I want to keep this pet book, Sid said. There is a good chapter on canaries, so I'm renewing it. Good idea, Song Lee said. Mary continued her task. If you saw a cardinal, you may line up next. Ida and Zuzu rushed to the door. If you have library books, you may line up. All of us did except Harry. Harry Spudger, did you forget your book again? Mary asked, scooting off her director's chair. Yeah, Harry moaned, then dragged his feet to the end of the line. Books. Look for the new books in our library. Mary led us briskly down the hall like she was the company commander. As we entered the library, everyone read the felt letters on the flannel board. Look for the new books in our library. When Harry got to it, he lingered. It looked like he was fiddling with one of the letters. Song Lee waited for him. I'm sorry you forgot your book, Harry, she said. Yeah, he replied, me too. That happens sometimes, Song Lee said. What bird are you studying? Harry shrugged. I haven't decided yet. As we all filed by the return cart, Mrs. Michelson noticed Harry didn't have his book. She reached for a piece of purple paper, wrote down a title, and then handed it to him. Just a friendly reminder that your book is overdue, she said cheerfully. When you return it, I have a new bird book you might want to check out. It's about vultures. How cool! Will you save it for me, Mrs. Michelson? I love vultures. I sure will. Harry groaned when the two of us sat down at a library table. Man, this is going to be boring. I can't even check out a book today. As Harry was talking, he played around with the purple reminder, folding it this way and that way until it looked like a cootie catcher. What are you doing with that? I asked. Harry shrugged. I don't know. It's something to do. Suddenly, Sydney appeared. Did you guys see that flannel board? Yeah, why? I answered. It says there are new books in the library, Sid explained. Books? I replied. Huh? Harry had a toothy smile on his face for the first time that morning. I'll show you, Sid said. Harry and I followed him. There was the flannel board with a new message. Look for the new books in our library. Harry! I thought. He flipped the letter B. I know about books, Harry said. I caught one last week with my book catcher. Sid stared at Harry's purple paper. Wow. What do books look like? He asked. Well, Harry said, I don't want to spoil the surprise when you find one. But I will let you use my book catcher, Sid. You just get down on the ground and look under things. Books are always hiding. If you call their name very softly, one might come out. They prefer being called Pookie though. Sydney took the purple book catcher and held it with his fingers. He crawled over to the nearest library shelf and peeked underneath. Here, Pookie, Pookie, he called softly. I shook my head and walked away. Harry was not bored anymore. He'd gotten Sid to play his game. Boys and girls, Mrs. Michelson called out, please come to the non-fiction section of the library. Everyone gathered around, except Harry and Sydney. They were too busy looking for books. These are the shelves that have all the bird books. I am proud to say we have quite a wonderful selection. And over here on the computers are bird websites. They are ready for you to use. You can click on various topics like habitat, diet, migration, and even the sounds birds make. Neato! I said, sitting down at the computer next to the circulation desk. I wanted to hear birdsong. When Sydney started snooping underneath the librarian's counter, Mrs. Michelson came over to him. Did you drop something? She asked. No, Sid replied. I'm looking for books. Did you say books? The librarian replied. What in the world are books? I'm trying to find one right now, Sid said. Then he took Mrs. Michelson back to the bulletin board. See, he said. Harry told me all about them. The librarian looked at the sign. Look for the new books in our library. Oh, for Pete's sake, she exclaimed. She quickly took the felt letter P and flipped it right side up. That's supposed to be a B. Mrs. Michelson looked at Sydney. There are no such things as books. Oh, I knew that all along. Sid chuckled. I like playing with book catchers. Since I already have my bird book, it's something fun to do. Mrs. Michelson stared at the book catcher. She recognized the purple reminder notice. Harry Spudger, she groaned, I need to have a word with you in the back room. My eyes bulged. The librarian's back room is behind the circulation desk. I could see into it through the glass wall. Mrs. Michelson was scolding Harry. Harry had his head down. Then he looked up and said he was sorry. That's what his lips said, anyway. On his way back to the library table, Harry stopped by to see me. He didn't have a toothy smile. I'm lucky Mrs. Michelson still likes me, he said. I told her I wouldn't mess with her bulletin board ever again. Good. Pooks was kind of funny, though, I said. Yeah, it was, Harry agreed. You. No, Doug, I can't wait to see that new book on vultures. Those dudes are the king of birds. Mary suddenly butted in. Did you say vultures are the king of birds? She asked, gagging. They are disgusting. Vultures eat dead animals that have flies and maggots crawling all over them. When I saw one on the Discovery Channel, I had to turn it off. You missed out, Harry said. Mary abruptly turned her head and went over to share her hummingbird book with Ida. Song Lee was checking out a book on owls. Ida had one with a red cardinal on the cover. You're going to gross out the class with your report, Harry, I said with a giggle. I didn't want him to know I would be grossed out too. Good! Harry exclaimed. Sometimes the truth is gross. Vultures hardly ever get sick, and they eat really slimy things all the time. I want to find out why. At least Harry didn't get into any more trouble in the library. I was glad the vultures got Harry's mind off Sydney. Sydney wasn't thinking about Harry either. He was still playing with that poop catcher. While we were walking back to the classroom, Harry and I asked the teacher if we could go to the bathroom. Good timing, boys. You can take the stairs right now to the basement. After we hurried downstairs, I made a beeline for the boys' room. As soon as I took care of my business and washed my hands, I looked around for Harry.